Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Angela Brennan and today I'm bringing you my final video for the March 2025 Spellbinders Club Kits, and I've got quite a few of the Club Kits that I showcase here, which is why it's quite a long video, but I've also time-stamped it so you can go to the Club Kit that you want. I start off with the Spellbinders BetterPress of the month, and it pairs well with the stencil of the month, where 3 of the stencils are layering stencils to color the background, which is the BetterPress of the month. It goes so well together. But I also show you how you can use the stencil separately or use the BetterPress plate separately. I don't do any letter pressing here. I use the BetterPress plates that come with 2 sentiments and a die to cut the sentiments. I hot foil all of them. If you've been following my videos, you know how I love hot foiling. So the basic principles apply with BetterPress of the plate. The hot foil dull side faces the paper, the pretty side faces the pretty side of the BetterPress plate, and I use my best ever craft tape to secure them together. Heat up the Glimmer machine and put it through the Glimmer machine. You see that light that's glimmering there? And once that light stops flickering, I put it through my Platinum 6 machine to press that hot foil into the paper. And I use the Hammermill paper, which is a nice smooth paper, card rather, and it's also a good weight to take on the hot foil. And I get a beautiful impression of that BetterPress plate, which is hot foil. The impression of the BetterPress plate already tells me it's going to be beautifully transferred onto the card, and there you go, it's so gorgeous. And I've also got the negative image here, which I'm going to hot foil using a solid rectangle hot foil plate. Same principles, dull side of the hot foil against the card, and I've got this rectangle hot foil plate that is going to be put against that hot foil. I'm going to place it onto the heated platform of the Glimmer machine, and it's the same timing. I press the button. Once it stops flickering, I put it through the Platinum 6 machine to press that hot foil into the card, and it still provides such a beautiful image. So I'm getting a 2-for-1 here. I like the fact, and that's why I end up making so many cards. You'll see how many cards I end up making, because you get 2-for-1. You get the positive image as well as a negative image, and when I remove that plastic sheen there, I get such a pretty image that is so shiny. And look at the clear plastic here that shows you all of the hot foil as transferred onto the card so beautifully, showing me the beautiful positive and negative image of that BetterPress plate pattern. Gorgeous. I continue to do it. This is the lavender petal that is onto a purple card, but there's a bit of overfoiling, so I can't use the negative image. But the overfoiling is easily rectified. I just take a nice rubber eraser and gently erase it, and you can see all of that hot foiling comes off there on the left there. I'll just continue doing that. I'm also doing some hot foiling of the Caboodle deluxe item. So when you get the deluxe Caboodle, you get a bonus item, and this time it's some beautiful sentiments from the BetterPress plate, which I'm hot foiling as well. And all these sentiments from the bonus item go so well with the theme of this month, which is all about cards for your loved ones, the males and females of your family. So you can see that cards that go with the theme of the fishing and golfing that comes with the small die of the month. You'll see that later on in the video or in a previous video that I've done, and I'll link that below. Here you can see that I've got some overfoiling on this bonus item that I have, the sentiments that I've hot foiled here. I'm just removing it by just lightly erasing it with the rubber eraser, and it's all good to go. I'm using the coordinating die that comes with the sentiments, and it's nice and easy because I can die cut all of the sentiments at the same time. So you've got all the sentiments ready for when you start putting your cards or assembling your cards together, and you put it through the die cutting machine and you get all of them available. And what I liked when I get coordinating dies for the sentiments is I can do another layer and I can make sure the sentiments are nice and sturdy when I double them up. So here I'm going to be showing you how I'm using the solid rectangle essential Glimmer hot foil plate that comes from Spellbinders. It's smaller than what I used earlier, which is the Catherine Pooler solid rectangle, and I'm going to use it directly the same way, same principles, put it onto the Glimmer machine, and put it through the Platinum 6, and I get a beautifully hot foiled negative image here. Oh, beautiful. And all the extra, these are all the hot foils that I've done. I've got the positive and negative images, and I've also got all the sentiments that I've done in various colors. And you'll see me put various cards together and how I use the coordinating stencils from the stencil of the month. But before that, I'm going to show you the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit of the month. So the Glimmer Hot Foil this time is all sentiments. So lots of nice sentiments from the clear stamp of the month, the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit, as well as the bonus item if you get the deluxe caboodle set. So this is a Glimmer set which I'm going to hot foil all the sentiments, and it also comes with the coordinating dies. I'm using the polished brass. Same principles, dull side of the hot foil faces the card, pretty side of the hot foil faces the pretty side of the Glimmer plate, and then I'll put it through the Glimmer machine exactly the same way as I do the BetterPress plates. So you can get 2 for 1 with your BetterPress plates, and once I do my BetterPress hot foiling, I'm also going to be doing my Glimmer hot foil plates at the same time because I've got my machine ready already. And I go ahead and do lots of hot foiling here. The Glimmer Hot Foil Kit comes with a roll of hot foil, and this month I got the prism. I do use the prism. You saw me use it earlier with the BetterPress plate, and here I'm using the polished brass. A little bit of overfoiling. I do the same thing. I use a soft eraser to erase or remove all that overfoiling. And I've got quite a few of my sentiments ready to place on my cards. It also comes with a nice set of sentiments that's called Mum and Dad. And I like the fact that they've catered to the spelling of mum, the UK spelling, which is M-U-M. I find it hard to use American spelling because being from the UK, I like to use the UK spelling. And that mum and dad sentiments also come with the coordinating die. So it's nice and easy for me to do all of the sentiments together. So I've got the BetterPress sentiments, I've got this Glimmer kit sentiments, and then I'm going to show you how I start making the backgrounds and the components of the cards where I can add all of this sentiments. So here I've got all the sentiments, and I also do extra layers to back them up because I do like my sentiments to be a little bit thicker, and I've done the sentiments in different colors based on the cards that I've hot foiled the background and the images on. So all the sentiments ready to go. And now I'm going to use the stencil of the month, which is the Mosaic and Quilted Memories. So there's 3 stencils here, layering stencils that I can use with the BetterPress background. So I'm going to do that first. And the other 2 stencils go with the embossing folder, the 2D embossing folder, which I'll show you later in the video, or you can go straight to it because I've time-stamped it already. When I do stenciling, I either use my stamping platform or I use the stamp wheel. So you'll see me use both. Here I'm using the stamp wheel more for the sticky mat. I'm showing you the 3 different stencils that go with it. And I'm going to start off by using the stencils with some distress inks. I've chosen 3 colors here. You've got the barn door, and I'm starting with the barn door, which I'm going to just very quickly place the colors onto the stencil, easily done. And then I'm going to go with my next color, which is going to be the carved pumpkin. The carved pumpkin is orangey color from distress ink, and I do tend to put a couple of layers because I do want it dark, because sometimes when it dries it gets a little bit lighter. So I do put it a little bit darker, and I also use a little bit of ripe persimmon to just use a smaller detail blending brush to add a little bit of a shadow. It's not very clear in the video, but when in real life you can actually see the slight shadow when the card is completed. So I like to add a little bit of shading so that it looks pretty once it's all completed. And then finally, I'm going to be putting the final stencil where I'll use the peacock feathers to do the final color or the final layer of these 3 layered stencil for the BetterPress background. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And when you do subscribe, remember to press that notification bell so you're alerted when new videos are uploaded. And when there's a sticky mat, just move the sticky mat and fold the sticky mat to remove your card so you don't curl it too much. And there you go. You've got the stenciling completed with the BetterPress background. Here I'm just going to be using some tumbled glass distress ink just to give it a little bit of a background before I use the stencils to do the individual coloring of this image. So I did a tumbled glass with a background, and the first layer I'm using some Twisted Citron, which is a light green color. Again, it dries a little bit lighter, so I do like to layer up my inking. And then I'm going to use the next stencil where I'll use some Kitsch Flamingo. I do like this pink. I ensure I have my inks pads all nice and juicy, so I do buy the refills whenever I buy an ink pad so that I can refill and make sure my ink pad is nice and juicy, especially when I'm doing ink blending. And for the third layer here, I'm using some Picked Raspberry Distress ink. I do store my distress inks quite easily, so it's easy to retrieve. I'll put a link to my distress ink storage in the description below, because they're so easy to get to, I tend to use them more often than not. And here I'm going to be doing some blending without the stencil of the month, so without any layering stencils, just the background. So what I'm doing here, I'm using the 4 different colors from the shades of purple from Old to New, and just doing a little bit of gradation of the colors from the darker to the lighter, using a dry cloth to erase all of that ink on the foiled areas, because this is the foil resist technique where all the ink on the foiled areas will come off quite easily. Again, another foil resist technique where I'm using a large brush, a blending brush, to apply some speckled ink and a little bit of salvage satin patina at the bottom, just to give it a little bit of a darker hue to that light teal of the speckled ink. So it's going to be really light for the background, and then I'm going to be using that layering stencil with some peeled paint, some salvage patina to just add a little bit of color to this background. And I'm also going to be doing some glimmer paste. I do like adding glimmer paste, and here I'm using the Galactica blue, and I do add it to the stencil quite easily, just making sure it's a very thin layer. And if it's too thin a layer and it's too flat, once it's dry you can always add another layer, and I do that sometimes. And if you can see, over the container of that glimmer paste, I've got a seal, a pressed seal that I used the top before I screw the container top onto it, because this prevents that glimmer paste from drying out. And I've noticed it really makes the glimmer paste or any kind of paste last longer. So all of these containers, I tend to have a piece of press and seal at the top before I put the top, I screw the top on the container. And whatever touches this glimmer paste, make sure you wash it immediately, whether it's your sticky mat, your stencil, or the palette knife. So once I'm done, I scrape all the excess back into the container so there's no wastage, and I will immediately wash my stencil and all the bits that have touched the glimmer paste, so you have that nothing is destroyed basically, because once the glimmer paste dries, it's really hard and you can't get rid of it. So I'm going to leave this to dry, and then I'll get back to it within the hour. It takes about an hour. I hot foil the BetterPress plate onto this red card with some polished brass hot foil, and I'm using some Grapevine, which is a dark red ink from Old to New, to just put it at the edges of this rectangle, just to give it a little bit of a differentiation. And here I'm just placing some dark Galactic Stream, which is a dark teal color, onto the teal card that I've hot foiled the background, and I've got a darker teal here. So I do like adding different colors. And here I'm going to add another different Nouveau Glimmer Paste, Turquoise Topaz. I do like adding glimmer paste to my stencils. If you've watched my videos often, you will see every time there is a stencil, I tend to show you various ways that I use it. I will be using a glimmer paste. In fact, I do show you later on how I use these stencils on its own without the BetterPress plate background image. So you can use the stencil on its own or with the BetterPress image, totally up to you. I think they both look pretty. I think I get some beautiful cards with or without that background image with the stencil on its own. And you don't have to use all layers of the stencil. You can just use one layer and leave it if you want. So there's quite a bit of versatility on how you use these stencils. And here you go, there's another image here. I didn't use all the stencils. I used 2 of the stencils, and I've got this covered here with the teal background. And here I'm doing using the Eero Arts white ink, Unicorn pigment ink, and I'm going to use the stencil to add some ink to it, and I'm using some clear embossing powder to just do some embossing. Now I do the clear embossing powder, and then I end up using my heat tool to melt the embossing powder, but I didn't think it looked stark enough, so I do go back and use some white embossing powder as well. You'll see what I do here. I thought initially I made a bit of a mess, but you will see. So I'm adding some dark red first, and then I add some white embossing powder. There's so many ways you can do it, and I love experimenting with the various stencils and products that I get. And I do like leaving in some of my boo-boos, if you like, some of the errors I make. So you do get to see that sometimes when I do craft, it's not a linear process. I do make a bit of a mess, but I tend to leave it in so you can see. So I should have waited for that dark red ink to dry, and you can see I've got too much white embossing powder all over, but it's okay. I patiently use a dry paintbrush, and I remove all the embossing powder from where that dark red ink has gone on to before I use the heat tool to melt that white embossing powder just in that center of those images. I think the white embossing powder stands out on that red background a little bit better than just the clear embossing powder against the white pigment ink. At least I think it looks better. So here is the negative image that I hot foiled with the Spellbinders solid rectangle hot foil plate, and I've cut it down, and I'm going to be placing it onto a mat, and I'm just inking the edges of that mat with some Kitsch Flamingo. Now after I did it, I think maybe I shouldn't have, but I left it. I decided to go with it, and I'm going to be placing it onto an A6 card. So the A6 card here is a common card size in the UK, and it measures 14.8 centimeters by 10.5 centimeters, and I'm attaching it to the card base with some double-sided tape. I do prefer using double-sided tape rather than liquid glue. It's just a personal preference, because that way I feel it sticks sturdily, it can go on quite easily, as well as I don't put too much liquid glue and warp the card base. And these little cute flowers, I've die cut in white, and I've inked them with distress ink, and they are from the large die of the month. Here are the sentiments that I have hot foiled earlier on. You saw me do that. It's Mum from the Glimmer of the month, and you've got that Forever My Role Model also from the Glimmer of the month sentiment. I'm just arranging these flowers that come with the large die of the month, and I'm just going to be placing it against the word mum. It takes me a little while to arrange them because I'm not sure how I want to put them, but sometimes it's almost like arranging a bouquet. Until you get it right, you don't know how you want it. So that's what I tend to do here. I'm using my trusted tea ruler to place that sentiment below, just to make sure it's nice and straight on the front of the card before I place the mum with the bouquet of flowers behind it. So I'm just cutting it a little bit smaller or shorter the stock so I can place it quite close to that word mum. And I've already given both the sentiments, or the mum and the Forever My Role Model, some backing with some additional layers which I've die cut with the coordinating die, which is why I absolutely love having the coordinating dies with the sentiments. Here I'm cutting the bouquet of 3 flowers separately because I want them to be quite close to the sentiment mum. So you can be quite versatile in how you want to cut these little flowers down and just put them into the slots that you want to, so they make a tiny little bouquet above the word mum. So I like doing these things with the various floral sets I have. And if you notice, I'll use a lot of the floral sets again and again, as well as the sentiments, because I think they're so versatile and they can use in various different cards. And there you go, this shiny card's done. And I've made a similar card with another background here. You will see me, this time I've used the dad sentiment, and while I've die cut everything in white, and because it resists the foil, I've just used that prize ribbon distress ink to over that sentiment, and then I've just wiped the ink off the foiled area so you can get different colored sentiments. This is the clear stamp and die of the month. Again, it comes with quite a few more sentiments, which I know I'll be using many cards to come. So these are the types of sets. So Spellbinders club kits are always by theme. And these type of sentiments, because they're quite generic and they can be used in many other cards, I will be putting this closer to my craft space so I can use the sentiments time and again when I need them for some cards that I'll make in the future. I treated the card with some anti-static powder because I'm going to do some heat embossing. Applied some Versamark ink, which is clear embossing ink, onto the stamp. Used my stamp press tool to press that image right into the black card, and I'm going to sprinkle some super fine white embossing powder. Now, because this embossing powder is really fine, I always make sure my heat gun or heat tool is warmed up, and then I will start heating it from the back because I want the fine embossing powder not to fly away. So I start from there. In fact, I end up doing most of it from the back here because I want it to be nice and smooth. And then, of course, I use the coordinating die. All of the sentiments this time come with coordinating dies, which is so helpful. And I've got all the sentiments I've die cut, and I got both of them done. And I also cut another layer because I immediately want to layer them up so they're nice and sturdy to go onto my cards. And you'll see me use a lot of these sentiments on the cards that I'll show you at the end of the video. And I used quite a few of them on one card because they go so well together and they coordinate so well together. So you got all these sentiments and sub-sentiments basically for all the various relationships within the family, from grandma, grandpa, granddaughter, son, daughter, mom and dad. So it's quite good to have all these sentiments nice and available. So I've got this die cut down, slightly smaller than my card base, and I'm placing a little bit of a foam here. So the foam here is not too thick. I think it's a couple of millimeters. That's all, just to give it a little bit of dimension before I place it onto the black mat. So I've used some black hot foil here to do that BetterPress image, done some stenciling to color the image, and I'm using a black mat before I put it onto the background of an A6 card. Again, all of them attached using double-sided tape, and I'm going to be using those sentiments from the clear stamp and die of the month to place onto the middle of the card. Just a couple of them using my T ruler to make sure it's nice and straight. So happy Mother's Day for all you do. Thank you. I think it's a nice and simple sentiment, and I always use my T ruler to make sure it's nice and straight. And I use liquid glue to place this because it gives me a little bit of time to move that sentiment right to the middle of the card front to make sure it's nice and central. There you go. So it's a nice and simple way to put that together. I would love to hear what you think of all these cards that I've put together. Do leave me a comment. I love getting constructive comments on the cards I've created, on how the videos have come out. I'd love to hear from you. Do let me know what you think. I've also linked all of the products I've used in the description below as much as I can, so do have a look at those as well. I'm using my media picker tool from Crystal Katana to place tiny little pink gems in the middle of those flowers, if you like. You can't really see, but I think in real life I like the look of those tiny gems in the middle of those flowers because I think it adds the prettiness of the card. And here I'm just going to put another layer here. So here you can see I'm using the Hero Arts Premium Cardstock Adriatic. I don't want to waste the card, so I'm just putting the mat as a frame, putting that foam to give it a bit of dimension, and then I've got that negative image there as well. So it's nice and easy. And again, I'm going to be adding some flowers from the large die of the month. I love adding florals to these kind of cards because it doesn't take much to add to that prettiness or that elegance of the card. So you can do without it clearly. And some cards I don't put any flowers, but I like adding those tiny flowers there. And I tend to put the smaller flowers because I think the smaller flowers are a little bit prettier and elegant. It doesn't take away from that background of that hot foiled background. I think so anyway. That's my personal view. So let me know what you think. I've got two other videos from this month's Clubkits that I have done, and it's in my YouTube channel, and I'll put link to links to them in the description below so you can check them out as well. I have got 3 videos. I tend to do longer videos sometimes because I think it's easier to release them, and it's just been such a busy time for me. So I've put some timestamps so you can go to the club kit that you want to see directly. It's totally up to you. I just think having all those club kits together sometimes in one video shows you how you can use them together so well. And the Spellbinders club kits or monthly club kits are always issued on a theme basis, and the sentiments this time in this month's go so well with everything, and I loved using them all together. And here I've put that sentiment together with those little flowers at the top there, and I just think it adds a little bit something. And I forgot to put some glue behind the flowers. I'm just adding them now and easily attaching them. And there you go. Simple and clean card. I like the way it's the shininess to it really makes the card look really pretty for me anyway. Let me know what you think. The next card here, again, I'm just going to be putting this card together. I like having mats. So if you see this time around, I've used lots of mats in all of my cards, and I'm going to be placing that darker purple, which I've hot foiled the BetterPress background it with some lavender petal hot foil, and I'm going to be using an arch. This arch is from the large die of the month, Family and Friends vignettes, and I'm going to be putting that onto the middle of the card, after which I will put some flowers in the middle, and all of these flowers are from the large die of the month. So if you check out my video, the large die of the month, and the link is in the description below, you will see how I put all of these flowers together, and I show you the different ways that I've used them as well. So this is just arranging them. I go through this really quickly. When I put flowers like this together, I like to use a combination of liquid glue as well as some dimensional tape to give those flowers a little bit of dimension. And again, it's like arranging a bouquet. So you can, I did debate whether I wanted to show this in this part of the video because this is not about the large die of the month, but I just wanted to include it, though it makes the video slightly longer. I just thought it would be good for you to see how I put this card together. It's sometimes quite random the way I put the bouquets together. Sometimes it takes me a little bit longer. In all of the Spellbinders club kits, what takes me a long time sometimes is to think up the color combinations. And I did debate whether I like this green and yellow with the purple, and I do actually like it. I like the way this card turned out. The color combination particularly is something I like. Do let me know what you think of this color combo. It's hard to think of different color combos, and we all have our favorite color combos, and I tend to gravitate towards that, but every so often I like to push the boundaries a little bit and see what other different color combos there are out there. And this particular time I decided that this is a new color combo for me, which I think I'll be using more of. I like that. And you know, it is always, you use your color wheel to see what colors go together. It's something I do every so often, off video obviously. Maybe I'll start showing you how I do that. So here, this one here, I'm going to be using the sentiment from the clear stamp of the month, Happy Mother's Day, a simple card to go for your mother, and you can put a nice little sentiment inside to write a message to your mom. My boys, so the 30th of March is Mother's Day in the UK. My boys nowadays, they go to my craft room and pick out a Mother's Day card from there. They say, what better cards can we give you than the cards you make? I think that's quite sweet. So they've picked cards, and one of my sons picked this card to give to me. So I really like the message that went inside. So here is another negative image hot foil, but here I'm going to be using the sentiments from the clear stamp of the month. This card is perfect for a dad who likes golfing. So the golf die cuts on the left there, that's from the small die of the month. And again, you can see me put those together in another video, which I've linked in the description below. So the small die of the month has got 2 themes. It's got a golf theme as well as a fishing theme. And you can see me show you both of that in a small die of the month video. While Spellbinders Club Kits are available for subscription from the 6th to 27th of each month, sometimes you can get the previous month's subscriptions in the past kits. So there is a link to the past kits under the clubs in the Spellbinders website. So do check that out. But you'll only get them if they are available. Sometimes they may not be available if you don't have additional stock and you may miss out. So it's best to try and get your subscriptions in by the 6th to 27th of each month. And every month you'll get a new theme of all of the subscriptions. You've got various subscriptions that you can choose from. Here are all the cards that I've created with the BetterPress of the month, as well as the other club kits as you've seen. Here I've done the basic with the stencil of the month, and I've got the sentiment from the Glimmer of the month. Here I've used some Glimmer paste, you saw me do this, and the sentiment is a hot foil from the BetterPress of the month. In this one I've just done some ombre ink blending, and I just like the fact that you can use this without the stencil of the month to color it as well. It looks just as pretty. And here you've got the negative hot foiling. So the left is the positive hot foiling and the right is the negative hot foiling. And I've created a bouquet of flowers with the die cuts from the large die of the month with the sentiment Happy Mother's Day from the clear stamp of the month. So you can use all of them interchangeably. As you can see, it's so beautiful. You saw me put this card together. The golf set is from the small die of the month and the sentiments are from the clear stamp of the month and the die as well. And here are some A6 cards that I've created. Simple. You don't have to do too much to it if you do the hot foiling on a colored background. It really looks really rich and beautiful on the card. And I've got quite a few of them that I've done on quite strong colored cardstock where I've used polished brass. I like using polished brass because polished brass hot foil almost always gives me really good results. And here is steel card using the prism hot foil with the hot foil kit for the sentiment. And I've done some glimmer paste that is the turquoise topaz. And here I've done the very basic ink blending with the stencil of the month and a positive or negative image here. Two negative images. You saw me put these cards together. So easy to put together and so elegant. I really hope you enjoyed all of these cards and you're inspired on all the various ways I created these cards. Let me know what you think, and you know that when you do hot foiling, whether it's with your BetterPress plates or the Glimmer plates, you always get the positive and negative as well. I must say with the sentiments, I tend to get quite a bit of overfoiling, so I tend not to use the negative images too much. So it's very rarely that I get a negative image that I can use. This is the 2D embossing folder, and you must remember 2D embossing folder and 3D embossing folders, they have different thicknesses. Therefore, there's a different sandwich to be used in your embossing machine, so do be careful of that. I just spritz some water behind the card and I put it through the embossing machine, and I'm going to put some heavy objects on it to let it dry. So when it dries, it will dry quite flat, so you don't have the card warping. And there you go, see how flat that is. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it onto my sticky mat and do some ink blending. I'm going to do the ink blending with just a couple of colors here. You'll see how I use the same colors, but I place the inks differently. So the first card here, I'm going to use a picked raspberry distress ink for the first layer of the stencil, and I'll use the wilted violet distress ink for the second layer of the stencil, and I'll use it wholly. And I do put a couple of layers because I do like my distress inks nice and dark because they do dry a little bit lighter. And you'll see how I use the same colors the second time around slightly differently because I want a different focus of the colors, and there's so many different ways you can use it, and you'll see me show you that when I use it without the embossing folder, just the stencils on its own. So here, this is the second one. I'm just going to focus on using the pink with both the stencils in the middle, and I'll use the wilted violet, the purple color, at the edges or around that center. So the purple is focused around it, and you've got the pink with both the stencils focused in the middle. I just think it gives a totally different look, and you can experiment with that with regards to how you use with these stencils. I didn't use any glimmer paste with these stencils, but you can always try it out and see how it looks, because it will give you a different look every time you use the stencils with different colors and different mediums. There you go. You can see how the first one was very much two different colors, and here you see the pink focused, so a different look. I'm putting, after I did my stenciling of the colors, I'm putting both the panels back in the embossing folder just to make sure that the images are nice. You can see the dimension of that embossing. Here, I assembled both cards. I put a little bit of foam behind each of the embossed panels and give it a bit of a matte. And this sentiment here is from the Hello Smile etched dies from the Out and About collection, and the other sentiments are from the Clear Stamp of the Month from March 2025. I like how both cards have turned out. I like putting mattes on these cards because it's so simple and yet it looks beautiful. Now I'm going to use all of these stencils on its own. So if you get the stencil of the month, you can use all these stencils on its own. I'm going to do my stenciling here by putting the stencil in the corner of my stamping platform. I'm going to be using 3 colors here. All distress inks, wilted violet, peeled paint and picked raspberry. But you see the way I use them in the 2 stencils. So I put the 3 colors in the different formation or different chronology just to mix the colors up. So if you keep doing that with different color combinations or even using the same colors but mixing it up, you'll get different looking cards. You'll see what I mean. So first I've done wilted violet, picked raspberry and peeled paint, and then when I go with the second stencil, I'm going to be using different colors. So I will use the peeled paint at the top. I'll use the wilted violet in the middle, and I'll use the picked raspberry at the bottom. So you will see them all being mixed up and you will see a different look altogether. And that's the beauty of these stencils. The way you put the colors together will show you how they can look so different. I've got a sticky mat on the top of my stamping platform to keep the card in place. So it's perfect for stenciling. Now I'm going to do the other 3 stencils. This is the one that I used on the BetterPress plate, but I'm not using any BetterPress plate, just the stencils. I've got 3 colors here that I'm using: green, which is the peel paint, peacock feathers, which is the teal, and prize ribbon, which is the blue. But I'm using them wholly, so you've got all the colors here that I'm putting fully. But I do double them up. As you know, I like to get my colors quite strong because they do dry a little bit lighter. So easy enough to do this. I do like the combinations of teals and greens. That's my go-to color combo. While I try to branch away with different color combinations, inevitably I tend to go back to them. So you will always see at least one card with this color combo in the many cards that I tend to make. Here you go. Nice and easy. So you can see for the next card, I'm going to use the same stencil, but I will do a little bit of course, Glimmer paste. I love Glimmer paste. So here I've already done a couple of colors here. I'm going to put the stencil back, and I'm going to use the pink Novelty Glimmer paste. Now again, same principles, but what I do here, and I don't show you it, I'm just going to tell you, I put a very thin layer. As I always put my Glimmer paste, I put a thin layer. Once I put the thin layer, I obviously wash all the stencil, the stamping platform where some of that Glimmer paste will get onto, and my palette knife. After it dries, I felt it looked a bit flat, so I did put the stencil back and put a second layer of the Glimmer paste. So it does look a little bit raised, a bit more dimension. So I did like that. And here are all the 4 card panels that I created just with the stencil of the month. And here I've put them together with a mat. And this is where I will pull out the various sentiment dies and die cuts that I have to create the different cards. So this one here, you've got the sentiments from the clear stamp of the month, and I've put 3 different sentiments there because it's so appropriate. And I've got this sentiment here from the different set that I have, and it's from the happy birthday wishes from the Out and About collection that I had previously from last year. And here I've got the congrats from the Vivid Script Sentiments from the Vivid Expressions collection. I like the color combination of this. So this is another new color combination that I'll go for, a bit of orange, pink, and a bit of a maroon. Now I'm going to show you how I use the 3D embossing folder, Floral Fence and Togetherness. This is a different sandwich for your embossing machine, so do keep note of that because you don't want to break your embossing machine. You want to make sure you got the right sandwich for your 3D embossing folder. So I still spritz the back of the panel and make sure I let it dry under a heavy object so it dries nice and straight without warping. And I've used watercolor paper here. You can leave it as is without any coloring because even white it looks beautiful. And I should have done a card with just that or with a colored cardstock, but I didn't. Next time. Or you can even do some ombre ink blending and just do the embossing. So it can do so many things, but I'm going to show you what I do here, which is a little bit more work, if you like. I've just used the card panel and I'm using my watercolor to do some watercoloring. Now, I'm not very confident with watercoloring, but when it comes to loose watercoloring, I tend to do it. This is what I call loose watercoloring. Not sure if that's what you would term it. So I just put some various colors on it, mostly yellows, oranges, and reds with green leaves. Now, there is so many ways you can do 3D embossing folder. I think it's so much you can do, and I like that about it. And I wish I had done the simpler versions of this. So I'm going to tell you what they are. You could have just done a color wash, embossed it, done some splatters, and that's you. Or even done some ombre ink blending, embossed it, and just put a sentiment. Or even just embossed it white on, because I think it really embosses well on some watercolor cardstock. I think it looks pretty. Or even colored cardstock. Really, so many different ways you can do it in a simpler form. This, what I'm doing here, takes a little bit more effort. So I do take a little bit more time to color in each of those flowers that form the side of it. So you can do as much or as little as you want. It's totally up to you. I enjoy pulling out my watercolors every so often. As you can see, I like to have a sampling or a swatch of all my watercolors at the top, so I know what colors I'm going for. I just find that really handy to have rather than having to test out the colors every so often. So I tend to put a clear color wash on my petals, and then I just put some of that watercolor on it. And most of it I tend to do a couple of layers. I'm not going to show you all the layering here because it's going to take a long time. The video is long enough. But I do let the watercolor dry and I do add some additional layers on it so you can see me do that. So this is one way to do it. You don't have to do this, as I said, but this is one way I've chosen to do it. If you're still watching this video, thank you for staying on for such a long video. I did think of putting it out as 2 videos, but I did run out of time and decided to put one long video in with time stamping for each of those club kits so you can go and see which ones you want. But I'm hoping you get to see how all of the club kits work so well together. That's how they are put together by Spellbinders. So if you get the deluxe caboodle, not only do you get the bonus item, but you get all the elements that correlate with that theme, and you can use all of the club kits together and create some amazing projects. And that's what I like about Spellbinders club kits, which is why I tend to store all of my Spellbinders club kits by month, because they come in theme, unless of course it's very sentiment centric. Even sometimes sentiment centric, it goes to the theme. For example, the sentiment for the bonus item is very aligned to the theme, so I'll keep that together with the monthly. But the one sentiment that I think I would probably keep separately is going to be the clear stamp and die of the month from this month, which I think I can use very easily with any other card. So I like that, so I'm going to keep that next to my craft space, and I can use it on various cards that I'll be doing in the coming months. Just like some of the other sentiments, the congrats and the hello, some of these older sentiments, I do have it near my craft space, so I tend to use it when I do a whole load of cards, as I've done this time. This month I've done so many cards. I'll have a quick showing of all the cards that I created for this month in my Instagram account, where you will see a quick video, I think about a minute to 90 seconds, where you get to see all the cards that I've created. And you get some inspiration. I know some of you get your subscriptions quite late in the month, or you're too busy to even do anything. So hopefully if you check out my Instagram account, it's the same name as my YouTube channel, Angela Brennan Creations, you can get inspired and see all the various cards that I've created with the subscriptions from March 2025. I would love to hear some comments from you either on my Instagram or on my YouTube channel. Let me know what you think. I know I should put out my videos earlier, but I'm hoping it's better late than never, and you can still get to see all of the cards that I've created and hopefully get inspired by them. I hope at one point I want to do a separate video just on the embossing folders, maybe one on 3D embossing folders on its own, because I think there's so much you can do with 3D embossing folders and I want to try a whole load of techniques with all of the embossing folders from the various Spellbinders club kits. Here what I've done is I've done some ink blending, and then I've put the embossing folder, put it through the 3D embossing folder, and now I'm adding some additional color with the darker shades of the colors that I've added. You will see me then once I'm done with adding these colors. I just wanted a darker shade, so I get a little bit tired of trying to add it so lightly. I take my smaller ink pads and apply it direct to the raised parts of that 3D embossing folder. It takes a little bit of patience to apply the darker shade very lightly onto those raised areas. So after this, I think, oh, is that enough? But then I decide to use a smaller ink pads and apply it directly. At one point I thought, oh my goodness, if I made a mess of this, but I did like how it turned out in the end. Let me know what you think, because I think I like the fact that those darker edges come from the direct to ink pad direct to the panel method. I do think it looks nice, but let me know what you think. Maybe I could have made it a bit more refined, because I think some of the colors seep out a bit too much. But I didn't show you this whole thing, but basically what I've done is done some ink blending, put it through the embossing machine, and then just added some color on all the raised areas. And I keep adding and adding. I don't know when to stop sometimes. Maybe I should have stopped a little while ago, but here you go. This is the final card. And I did use my white gel pen and add some dots to the center of the flowers, just to give it a little bit more prominence, if you like, the flower centers. And also some lines to the middle of the leaves, just to give it a bit of a highlight, because I think they got a bit too dark when I added the ink pad to paper. And here are the 3 panels that I've put together. And as usual with embossed panels, I like to put a little bit of a foam sheet behind it, not only to give it a bit more dimension, but also to kind of make sure it's nice and straight when I put it onto the card front here. So I do use all of my double-sided tape to place it directly onto the card front. And again, I do use my various sentiments from the various club kits and various releases. So here, this sentiment is from the small die of the month from August 2024. I love this sentiment set because it makes so many different sentiments from it. So it's a part of a set where you've got so many different wordings that you can create different sentiments. Have a wonderful day is this sentiment here. And here are the cards that I put together with all 3 of the 3D embossing folder panels. Here I've used the sentiment from the clear stamp of the month that you saw me stamp, emboss, and die cut. And here, this is from the January 2025 Glimmer of the month, the sentiment. I liked how all these cards turned out, and I've used a foam sheet behind each of the panels. This is a gorgeous embossing folder that you can get really creative with. And for my final card here, now when I did my stitching die of the month, I've all these squares that come out of it. So all the various, so I've got a separate video on the stitching die of the month, and I'll put that in the link below, so do check that out. I've arranged all the squares into the color combo that I want, and then I placed a double-sided adhesive sheet on a card panel, and I'm going to put the squares one by one and on this panel to create a background with all those squares that have come out from that stitching die. I had it in the side in a little bowl in my craft space, and I didn't think what I was going to do with it. And I decided to try something different without having to waste, because all of these cardstocks are really good cardstock, and I wanted to use them. So I've created a background with all of these squares, and I like the color. It's an unusual color combination for me, but it's just what I did with my stitching die, and I decided to use them. And I'm just cutting that excess from that double-sided adhesive sheet, and then I've got my panel ready for my card front. So I'm going to do some wax seal of the month. So I'm going to do some melting of my wax beads. So I've got the wax beads that I'm using here with my non-stick wax seal spoon is pearl white. So I'm melting this pearl white wax beads, and I'm going to put it onto my non-stick little pad and impress that wax seal onto it. I don't have a handle with the wax seal here, but you obviously will get it with a handle. And I'm just impressing it, and you see the surface of a golf ball there. You can see it comes out so clearly. Now to enhance that image there, I'm going to use a gold metallic marker to just lightly apply it so that the surface of that golf ball image will come onto that wax seal. Very easy to do. I liked the impression that it turned out, and it was quite easy to make a nice perfect circle. I was quite impressed with myself that I managed to get a nice circle, and it does come with practice. So once I get that done, I will just let it dry for a little bit because I don't want to mess it up. And then I'm going to use that background that I created, put it onto the card front with some double-sided tape, and then I'll use the adhesive circles, I think the sealed adhesive circles that are meant to be used on the back of the wax seals, and I will place that onto the card. And I'm going to use it as the golf ball. So this golf club, as you've seen before, is from the small die of the month, and I've got some double-sided tape as well as some dimensional tape on the back of that golf club, and I'm going to place that golf club. The golf ball is going to be the wax seal. So it does look like a ball, I think, and I'm going to just place that on top with some of that adhesive circle. There you go. Simple and nice. I don't know why I decided to use that as the background. I'm not sure if it goes. Let me know what you think. I just didn't want those little squares to go to waste. Sometimes I'm not sure how I think about these things, but I still have got more squares, so you probably could see a re-emergence of these squares in another card later on in another situation. And then this sentiment is from the bonus item. And I did tell you that these bonus item sentiments go so well together with the theme of the golf and fishing. So I've decided to use that. This is what I have already hot foiled in advance and die cut as well. So it's nice to have all the sentiments ready to go when you assemble the cards. And this is my final card for this video. I really hope you've enjoyed watching all of the cards that I've created in this video using the various Spellbinders Club kits from March 2025. And here are close-up pictures of all the cards that I've created. Do let me know what you think of these cards. Leave me a comment either here on my YouTube channel or when I do a roundup of all the cards and my Instagram, Angela Brennan Creations, which I'll release on the 31st of March, and you can see all the cards that I've created. Do check out my other two videos from these club kits as well of this month, and I've put that in the link below so you can check it out. I've also linked all of the products I've used, so as many as I can, because there is a limit to the number of products that I can link in the description below, so you can just check it out. And I'd love to get your feedback. Any constructive criticism, any constructive feedback is totally welcome. Thank you so much for your patience, and do know that I have time-stamped all of the club kits, so you can go to the club kits that you want to check it out. Happy crafting when you get around to playing with your subscriptions when you receive them. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll catch you at my next video. Do take care.